So have you ever found yourself, caught in that powerful loop, saying, just one more episode, and then you look up
Oh, yeah.
and realize the birds are chirping, the sun's coming up, and you've somehow just, almost without thinking, watched a whole season?
Absolutely. Billions of us, probably. It's become so normal, hasn't it? Streaming is just part of life now. That pull is really strong.
Incredibly strong. And what's interesting, and kind of the point of our deep dive today, is that even though it feels so casual, so harmless maybe,
Right.
binge watching is actually, well, it's pretty complex. It seems to have this dual nature.
It really does. On one hand, yeah, it can be comforting, a way to chill out, disconnect. Totally valid. But on the other hand, it shows some characteristics that, well, they make you ask serious questions about whether it could be, a behavioral addiction.
Exactly. And that's what we want to get into today. We're going to synthesize, really unpack some fascinating recent research stuff from just the last couple of years, 2022 to 2024, to understand what binge watching really is. We'll look at the causes, the consequences, good and bad, the maybe surprising benefits, and even some new ideas for interventions. Basically, how this tech shapes how we watch and how that shapes us.
Yeah, and to do that, we're drawing on quite a bit. There's a systematic review looking at it as a behavioral addiction, research on the psychological side like loneliness, escapism, and also looking into how streaming apps themselves, the community features, are designed to keep us engaged, maybe even connected. It's trying to see the whole picture.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. What is binge watching? Because it feels new, right? I mean, think back maybe 20 years ago. TV was completely different.
Oh, totally different. Scheduled.
You waited a whole week, maybe longer sometimes, for the next episode.
Yeah.
Or, you set the VCR. That was just how it worked.
You've really hit on the core transformation there. The whole media landscape shifted. Streaming platforms, Netflix, Prime Video, Hulu, all of them, they didn't just offer another way to watch. They fundamentally changed the model from scheduled to on-demand all at once.
Right.
And the technology, like faster internet, better streaming tech, made getting whole seasons instantly just easy, effortless, really. It's a massive societal shift in how we consume media.
So the sort of common understanding and how a lot of the early research defined it is just watching multiple episodes of one show in a single sitting for several hours. Simple enough.
Well, that's the general idea, yeah. But it gets tricky when you try to pin down a precise, official academic definition. There's still debate.
Oh, okay. So it's not clear-cut.
Not entirely. Some researchers try to set specific metrics, like you have to watch at least 3 episodes in a row, or the session has to be more than 4 hours to count as a problematic binge. They want a clear line.
Makes sense.
But others argue pretty strongly, actually, against these rigid numbers. They say focusing on quantity misses the point.
Oh, so?
Their argument is that the impact of the watching is what matters. How does it affect your life, your well-being, your responsibilities? That's more telling than just counting episodes or hours.
Ah, I see. So 4 hours might be fine for one person on a lazy Sunday, but maybe problematic for someone else who's neglecting things.
Exactly. Content varies, people vary. Plus, you see terms now like recreational viewers versus unregulated binge watchers, or distinguishing between intentional binging like planning a movie marathon and unintentional binging.
Unintentional. That feels very real.
Yeah, that's where you just sort of fall into it, right? Maybe because of the platform design, you didn't consciously decide to watch for 6 hours. It just happened. And that often leads to more regret later.
That feeling of it just happening, it really does feel like these platforms aren't just allowing it, they're actively encouraging it. That just one more episode thing is built right in.
Oh, absolutely. The autoplay feature is a prime example. Credits roll, boom, next episode starts in 5 seconds.
You barely have time to think.
Exactly. And from a cognitive load perspective, it's often much easier, requires less mental effort to just let it play than to actively grab the remote, navigate out, decide to do something else.
He uses our inertia against us, sort of.
Yeah, precisely. It reduces the friction to almost zero. Continuum becomes the path of least resistance. So you slide into these longer sessions, maybe without even meaning to. It's smart design from their perspective.
Okay, so this leads us right to the big and, yeah, maybe controversial question. Is this just a harmless, modern pastime, a way to relax? Or can binge watching actually become a behavioral addiction, like similar to internet addiction or gambling, or maybe even drawing parallels with substance issues in extreme cases?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the recent research, especially the reviews looking across studies, suggests pretty strongly that yes, problematic binge watching shares some really striking similarities with other established behavioral addictions. When
Okay.
it crosses that line into problematic territory, it can genuinely mess with someone's daily functioning, their work, study, relationships, health, just like other addictions can. The parallels are, well, they're hard to ignore.
All right, let's break that down. Let's apply those key indicators, the signs we look for in other addictions, to binge watching. First one, lot of control. How does that look with TV shows?
Loss of control here means feeling this almost overwhelming urge to keep watching, even when you know it's causing problems. Like you have a huge deadline tomorrow or an early start.
Right.
You tell yourself, okay, just this one episode, then sleep. But then it's not just one, it's 3, it's 5. Suddenly it's the middle of the night.
Been there. Maybe not that extreme, but yeah.
You know you'll be wrecked tomorrow. You know you're neglecting work or study, or even just basic stuff like eating properly or showering, but you feel like you just can't stop watching. That compulsion overrides the rational understanding of the negative consequences. That's loss of control in this context.
And that feeling, that inability to stop, that feeds into the next point, right?
Yeah.
Compulsive engagement. It's not just a choice anymore.
Exactly. It becomes something that dictates your schedule. You might start rearranging your life around watching, turning down plans with friends, putting off chores, delaying important tasks, all to make time for the show. It often happens late at night, which seriously messes with sleep patterns. And we're not just talking feeling a bit groggy. The research talks about psychophysiological stress.
Okay, what does that mean exactly? Psychophysiological stress.
It basically means your body and mind are under this constant low-level strain because of the disrupted sleep and maybe the stress of neglecting things. It can show up as fatigue that won't go away, being more irritable, muscle tension, maybe even getting sick more often. The watching becomes this ingrained priority, even over your own well-being. You might even feel anxious if you can't watch when you feel the urge.
So it's not just what you do, but how it makes you feel and how your body reacts. What about mood modification? Using it to chase a feeling.
That's a big one. Binge watching can provide this intense hit of pleasure or excitement, or maybe a deep sense of escape or comfort. And that feeling drives you to keep watching episode after episode to maintain or recapture that mood.
Like chasing a high.
In a way, yeah. It's about enhancing your mood, or maybe regulating it using the show to numb bad feelings or boost good ones. That's a core feature of many addictive behaviors. Your brain's reward system gets involved, releasing dopamine, making you want to continue the activity that feels good or provides relief. It can become the main way someone tries to cope with their emotions.
And does tolerance build up? Like needing more to get the same effect?
The research suggests yes. People tend to gradually increase their viewing time to get that same level of satisfaction or escape they felt initially. What started as maybe 2 episodes an evening might become 4, then 6, stretching later and later. You need more hours, more content to achieve that desired feeling.
Okay, and what if someone who's deep into this can't watch? Do they experience withdrawal symptoms, even though it's not a chemical thing?
Yeah, the studies report symptoms that really mirror withdrawal. When someone can't binge watch, they might feel intensely bored, restless, irritable, kind of empty, or just really disappointed. It suggests a pretty strong emotional and psychological dependence on the activity.
Yeah.
It's become their way to regulate mood, fill time, feel engaged. Take it away, and there's a noticeable void and discomfort.
Then there's denial and the conflicts that can arise, especially with family or partners.
Absolutely classic signs. People often deny their behavior is a problem. Even when friends or family express concern, I can stop anytime I want,
Right.
This denial can lead to arguments, friction with loved ones who feel neglected or worried. But even with that conflict, even with maybe feeling guilty themselves, the behavior continues. That persistence, despite negative consequences and relationship strain, is a real hallmark of addiction.
And the link to mental health seems particularly strong in the research you mentioned. The parallels are quite striking.
They really are. What's quite concerning is that people struggling with problematic binge watching consistently show higher levels of things like depression, general anxiety, what researchers call trait anxiety, social anxiety, difficulties managing emotions, which is termed emotional dysregulation.
Okay, emotional dysregulation.
Yeah.
So like big mood swings or trouble coping.
Yeah. Difficulty controlling emotional responses, maybe reacting very intensely or struggling to soothe themselves when upset, which of course makes turning to a show even more appealing as a quick fix. And also higher impulsivity, acting on the urge to watch without thinking it through.
Wow.
These aren't just minor mood dips, they are measurable changes in mental well-being that look very similar to what you see in people struggling with substance abuse or other behavioral addictions. It really underscores that for some, this goes way beyond just relaxing with a show.
Okay, so we've painted a picture of what problematic binge watching can look like. Now let's shift gears a bit. Why does it happen? What are the drivers? The psychological factors, emotional stuff, even environmental things.
A really consistent finding across studies is a link to lower psychological well-being to begin with. People with lower baseline mental health or those experiencing significant emotional loneliness seem more prone to extensive binge watching.
So it's often used as a coping mechanism.
Very much so. It's an accessible, relatively easy way to temporarily escape from daily stresses, psychological pain, or difficult emotions. It offers a timeout, a way to numb out for a while.
And that ties right into escapism, which comes up a lot with media use generally.
Absolutely. There's even a research model suggesting a kind of pathway. Loneliness can increase the desire for escapism. That escapism then makes people more likely to really identify with characters in the shows they watch.
Identify with characters. How does that work?
It's like vicariously living through them. If you're feeling lonely, connecting deeply with the character, feeling their experiences, can provide a sort of substitute for real-world social connection. It helps meet that fundamental human need for belonging, even if it's virtual. One paper described it as putting yourself in the character's shoes, feeling empathy, almost adopting their perspective temporarily.
That's really interesting. It's not just watching, it's participating emotionally to fill a gap. What about social anxiety? Does that play a role?
Yes, definitely. For some people, especially maybe university students who are under a lot of social pressure, binge watching can meet important emotional needs. It can help regulate emotions, calm anxiety, especially the anxiety tied to face-to-face interactions.
Not so.
Think about it. The social world in a TV show is predictable, controlled. You're observing, maybe feeling connected, but without the risk of judgment or awkwardness of real-life socializing. For someone with social anxiety, that can feel much safer and less intimidating. It offers a kind of social inclusion without the immediate stress.
Makes sense. So those are some deep psychological drivers. What about more immediate factors, like things in our environment or related to the platforms themselves?
Well, one simple but important one is daytime sleepiness. If you're already tired from poor sleep, maybe from binge watching the night before, ironically, you're more likely to turn back to it. It's low effort engagement when you feel drained.
Vicious cycle.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then we have to come back to the platform design. The all episodes available at once model that Netflix really pioneered, that was a game changer.
It removed the built-in pauses.
Exactly. No more week-long waits, no natural stopping points like ending credits followed by a different show, plus no commercial breaks to snap you out of it. The autoplay, the seamless flow, it's all designed to keep you there.
Right. And you mentioned students earlier. Life stressors play a role too.
For sure. University students dealing with heavy academic loads, exams, maybe social pressures, binge watching can seem like an easy, appealing way to just switch off, distract themselves, pass the time when they feel overwhelmed.
But it's not all about stress and escape, is it? People just enjoy shows.
Oh, absolutely crucial point. Enjoyment is a primary driver. People genuinely love the stories, the characters, the immersion. Research shows a clear preference for entertaining stuff, dramas, comedies, reality TV over purely factual content when it comes to binging.
And did things like the pandemic amplify this?
Hugely. When lockdowns happened and other entertainment options vanished, binge watching became a major source of comfort, fun, and even a shared cultural experience for many. It really cemented its role as something people turn to for enjoyment and distraction.
So if you tie all these drivers together, decreased well-being, loneliness, anxiety, the need to escape, platform design, enjoyment, it sounds like it creates a powerful reinforcing loop.
That's a perfect way to put it. It really can become this self-reinforcing cycle. You feel bad, lonely, or stressed, so you watch to escape. That escape feels good temporarily, which reinforces the behavior. But the underlying issues aren't resolved, and maybe you neglect things, which makes you feel worse.
Which makes you want to escape again by watching more.
Exactly. The temporary relief can inadvertently trap you in a pattern that's hard to break, potentially deepening the addictive tendencies.
Okay, let's move on to the consequences. We've touched on some, but let's really lay them out. You called it a double-edged sword earlier. Let's start with the negative edge, the downsides. Sleep seems like the biggest casualty.
Without a doubt, it's probably the most consistently reported negative impact. Problematic binge watching is strongly linked to poor sleep quality overall. Things like taking longer to fall asleep once you do stop.
Sleep latency.
Right. And then just sleeping less overall. And the sleep you do get is less efficient, more fragmented, not as refreshing. The blue light from screens doesn't help either. It can mess with your melatonin.
And that spills into the next day.
Big time. Daytime dysfunction, feeling tired all the time, having trouble concentrating, being more irritable. It's also linked to a higher risk of insomnia. People report just losing track of time, staying up way too late, and then struggling to wind down even when they finally turn off the screen.
And physically, beyond sleep, just sitting there for hours.
Yeah, that takes a toll. Back pain, neck strain, sore muscles from being sedentary, often in, let's be honest, pretty bad postures on the couch or in bed.
Guilty.
We all are sometimes. Then there's eye strain. Staring at screens for hours can cause blurred vision, dry eyes, headaches. Some people even worry about their eyesight getting worse, especially if they're watching in the dark.
And the bigger picture, lifestyle-wise.
Well, it's a sedentary behavior. Hours spent watching are hours not spent moving. Combine that with the tendency some people have to snack more, often on less healthy stuff, while watching.
The binge-watching snack.
Exactly. It adds up. Increased risk of weight gain, obesity, and then the serious conditions linked to that, like heart disease, diabetes. And there's a nasty feedback loop where obesity can worsen depression, which might lead to more comfort watching.
Wow, yeah. A tough cycle.
Every hour watching is an hour not doing something physically active, which we know is vital for both physical and mental health, especially for managing things like depression and anxiety.
That paints a pretty stark picture on the physical side. What about the direct mental health consequences, beyond just making existing issues worse?
Problematic binge watching is consistently linked with higher levels of loneliness, anxiety, and depression. It sounds paradoxical because people often watch to feel less lonely, but the solitary nature of spending hours and hours isolated.
It can actually make you feel more disconnected.
It seems so. Disconnected from real-world relationships and society. And while it starts as an escape, if you're neglecting responsibilities, hobbies, real social life, self-care because you're watching so much, that can definitely trigger or worsen anxiety and depression. Feelings of guilt, shame, like you're wasting your life. That feeds into depressive symptoms.
And you mentioned this is a particular risk for younger people.
Yeah, the research highlights late adolescence and early adulthood as potentially vulnerable periods. Brains are still developing, social lives are forming. Establishing these patterns early could have longer-term impacts.
And for students, it's not just about well-being. It hits their main job, right? Studying.
Definitely. The disrupted sleep alone messes with concentration and memory. Plus, the simple fact is, time spent watching hours of shows is time not spent studying, doing assignments, engaging in learning. It clearly impacts academic performance for those who get heavily into problematic patterns.
Okay, here's one I hadn't really thought much about.
Yeah.
The financial cost.
Yeah, it's often overlooked. But think about it. Multiple streaming subscriptions, maybe needing faster internet plans to handle all the streaming, potentially going over data caps if you have them. It adds up.
Especially if you needed all the platforms to watch all the shows everyone's talking about.
Exactly. It can become a noticeable ongoing drain on the budget, turning leisure into a real expense.
And then, after the binge, that feeling of regret. So many people mention that.
Oh, yeah. It's a very common theme in the research. That feeling afterwards, wow, I just wasted 5 hours, or I should have been doing X, Y, or Z. Guilt over neglected tasks, awareness that it wasn't great for your health, maybe self-blame.
It's a heavy feeling.
It really can be. And that regret itself can contribute to feeling down, which might, ironically, trigger the desire to escape again later. Another potential negative loop.
Okay, so that's the dark side, the negative edge of the sword. But you said it's double-edged. Let's flip it. What are the upsides? You mentioned social connection. How does that work when it often feels so solitary?
It seems counterintuitive, right? But think about water cooler talk or chatting with friends. What are people talking about? Often it's the shows they're watching.
Oh, okay. Shared cultural currency.
Exactly. Discussing plots, characters, theories with friends, colleagues, or even online fan communities creates this sense of shared experience, shared enjoyment. It gives you something specific and engaging to bond over. It can strengthen existing friendships and even spark new ones based on shared taste.
So the content becomes a social lubricant, almost.
In a way, yes. And beyond just chatting, it can offer genuine emotional support and release.
How so? like catharsis.
Yeah, partly. It can be a really effective temporary escape from stress, a way to genuinely relax. Immersing yourself in a fictional world lets you step away from your own problems for a bit. And engaging with the emotions in the story, laughing, crying, feeling suspense, can be a safe way to process or release your own feelings. It offers emotional ventilation.
And watching with other people must amplify that connection aspect. Co-viewing.
Hugely. Watching together, whether in the same room or virtually through watch parties, sharing reactions in real time on chat or social media, that transforms it. It becomes a shared event, a bonding experience. That's where the positive social side really comes through. It's active, shared enjoyment, not just passive, isolated viewing.
Now, this is fascinating. You mentioned earlier a kind of cyclical thing with loneliness. Can you unpack that a bit more?
Right, it's complex. So loneliness can definitely drive people to binge watch, as we discussed, seeking escape or connection. But some research suggests that, at least temporarily, binge watching can actually reduce feelings of loneliness for certain people.
Really?
Particularly for individuals who might be more prone to social withdrawal anyway. The research mentions type D, or distressed personalities.
Okay, what's type D?
It's basically a personality type characterized by experiencing a lot of negative emotions, worry, irritability, but also suppressing self-expression in social situations, often fearing rejection. For someone like that, engaging with fictional characters, this kind of one-sided parasocial relationship, might feel safer and temporarily fill that connection void.
So it provides a low-risk substitute for real connection, for some.
It can seem that way temporarily, but the risk, of course, is relying on it too much instead of developing real-world relationships. It's a temporary fix, not a solution for chronic loneliness.
Got it. And finally, just the simple function of stress reduction, a mental break.
Sometimes it's just that simple. Life is hectic, demanding. Binge watching offers an accessible way to just switch off, unwind, disconnect from responsibilities for a while. Immersing yourself in a story can be genuinely relaxing and restorative, providing that mental break we all need sometimes.
Okay, so putting both sides together, good and the bad, what's the synthesis? How do we understand this dual nature? It's clearly not just one thing.
It's definitely not. It's this fascinating paradox. On one side, you have these clear, concerning parallels with behavioral addiction, loss of control, compulsion, mood effects, tolerance, withdrawal, negative impacts on sleep, health, life, real problems.
Right.
But on the other side, it's also undeniably a powerful coping tool for many. It can foster social bonds, provide emotional release, offer genuine stress relief, and even temporarily ease loneliness.
So the context and the why really matter.
Absolutely. Understanding this balance is key, because when it tips into overuse, when it becomes the only coping strategy, that's when it risks becoming this detrimental cycle. It really highlights why mindful, balanced consumption is so important.
Okay, so given this complexity, this duality, can the streaming platforms themselves do more? Can they play a role in maybe addressing the drivers like loneliness instead of potentially just feeding the problematic side? Can they actually build community within the viewing experience?
That's a really exciting area right now. There's a definite potential, and maybe even a shift happening, away from just thinking about passive, solitary watching towards enabling active, interactive, even collaborative experiences right inside the apps.
So more than just providing content.
Exactly. Platforms are starting to see that adding social features isn't just a nice little extra, it's becoming crucial for the whole user experience. It can seriously boost engagement and, importantly, user loyalty. Some studies looking at platforms adding these tools show user retention going up by as much as 30%. That's significant.
So it makes business sense too, not just a nice idea for users. What are the benefits they're hoping for by doing this?
Well, the thinking is that sharing the experience makes you enjoy the content more deeply. Shared joy is bigger joy, right? It helps build that crucial sense of belonging. You're part of something.
Yeah.
It also sparks content discovery in a more natural way. Your friends recommend stuff, not just an algorithm. And people are apparently way more likely, like 65% more likely, according to some analyses, to recommend a platform if they feel connected there.
Wow.
So ultimately, it drives more viewing, more loyalty, and yeah, more revenue. It's about creating an ecosystem people feel invested in, not just a library they browse alone.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
So practically speaking, what do these community features actually look like? How do you foster real-time chat and connection while people are watching?
Some basic ways are things like integrated chat rooms or discussion boards tied to specific shows or movies. You can instantly share thoughts, reactions, theories as it happens.
Okay.
Then there are live watch parties, which are gaining popularity. You sync up watching something, a premiere, a classic movie with friends, or even a wider community chatting alongside. It recreates that feeling of watching together, even if you're physically apart. Makes it an event.
I've seen those little reaction buttons sometimes, like an emoji that pops up during a live stream.
Exactly. Those spontaneous reactions, applause, laughter emojis, whatever, let you participate instantly, adding to the shared energy, especially during live events. And some are experimenting with direct interaction Q&As with creators or actors during a stream. That offers a really unique connection.
And does this stuff work? Do people use it?
Apparently, yes. Early data suggests platforms adding these kinds of instant communication features see user interactions jump by around 40%. People clearly want to share the experience.
Beyond just chatting in the moment, what about user-generated content, UGC, allowing users to add their own stuff?
That's another huge area. Think about written reviews, video reactions, fan art, memes, fan theories, all created by the users themselves.
So the fans become creators too.
Precisely. It enriches the platform way beyond what the studio alone can offer. It gives users a sense of ownership, creative investment. When people feel their creativity is valued, they get much more engaged with the platform, not just the shows.
And that drives engagement.
Significantly. Some estimates suggest active UGC communities can boost daily active users by 30%. Plus, that authentic fan content is often shared more widely, like 20% more likely to be shared than official marketing creating great word of mouth.
But moderation must be a nightmare, right? Keeping it safe and positive?
Absolutely critical. You need robust moderation. Easy ways for users to report bad stuff, smart algorithms to catch harmful content automatically, strong privacy controls. Without that foundation of safety and quality control, the whole UGC ecosystem can fall apart fast. It's non-negotiable.
Okay, now this sounds fun. Gamification, using points, badges, leaderboards. How does that work to motivate people?
It taps into basic human psychology, our love for achievement, competition, recognition. Awarding points for watching, chatting, contributing content, giving out badges for milestones like finish season 3 or top reviewer, showing leaderboards of the most active users.
It makes it feel like a game.
Exactly. And it works. Platforms using gamification will report seeing user retention increase by around 30%. The competitive aspect alone can boost retention by 25% and daily active users by 40%, according to some studies. It turns passive viewing into an active challenge.
Are there more advanced ways to do it beyond just points?
Oh, yeah. Time-limited challenges. Watch this series this weekend for a special badge. Create urgency. Personalized rewards based on your viewing habits. You're a top sci-fi fan. Unlock this exclusive interview. Make it feel special.
Tailored achievements.
Right. Structured reward systems with tiers, maybe exclusive early access, public recognition like User of the Week, merchandise, virtual currency for customizing your profile can apparently increase user activity by 25% over 6 months. It's about making engagement feel like a rewarding journey.
What about quick interactions like polls or quizzes inside the app?
Those are great for quick, easy engagement. Let users vote on their favorite character, test their trivia knowledge, react to a plot twist. It makes people feel involved, heard. Surveys show a huge majority, like 70% of users, prefer platforms that have these interactive bits.
And the platform gets data too, presumably.
For sure. Poll results can give creators insights into what resonates with the audience. And live polls add that real-time excitement, making you feel like you're part of shaping something, even in a small way. It fights that passive feeling.
And finally, tying this all together with achievements, again, building loyalty by recognizing users.
It really comes down to making people feel valued for their time and engagement. Achievement, badges, visible milestones on profiles, they give that sense of accomplishment, maybe a little status within the community.
Makes you want to stick around, show off your badges.
Exactly. It motivates exploration, encourages friendly competition, and when achievements are visible, it might even encourage users to invite friends to join in. One figure suggests 70% of users are more likely to return if the platform celebrates their accomplishments. It shifts the whole dynamic towards an active, rewarding community experience.
Okay, so we've spent a lot of time on what the platforms can do and maybe should do to make things better, more connected. But let's bring it back to us, the viewers. What can we do? How do we navigate this world full of screens and endless content mindfully? How do we take back some control?
That's really the crucial question for each of us, isn't it? Because ultimately, how we choose to engage with media shapes us, our thoughts, feelings, well-being. The key idea here is practicing mindful media consumption.
Mindful media consumption.
Okay. It's about being intentional, conscious, deliberate in how we use digital media, especially streaming. It puts the power back in our hands, moving from being passive recipients to active choosers.
So what does that look like practically? How do we actually do mindful consumption?
Right. It starts with consciously trying to create balance. Balancing screen time with other things that enrich life. Like making time for physical activity so important for mind and body, prioritizing real face-to-face social connection, pursuing hobbies, interests, things that don't involve a screen at all, reading, music, nature, whatever it is for you.
So actively choosing other things.
Yes, and also developing self-awareness about why you're reaching for the remote or opening the app. Ask yourself, am I watching because I genuinely want to relax and enjoy this specific show? Or am I just trying to numb out, avoid feeling something, escape reality because it's uncomfortable right now?
Yeah, it's a tough question to ask sometimes.
It is. But being honest with yourself about your motivation is a huge first step towards regaining control and making conscious choices. Are you using it or is it using you?
Which brings us right back to that dual nature we started with.
Exactly. It reinforces that binge watching isn't inherently evil. Used mindfully, intentionally, it can be a great tool for relaxation, enjoyment, even connection, like watching together or discussing shows. It can be a healthy, temporary escape. But when it becomes the default, the main or only way you cope with stress or difficult emotions, when it starts crowding out other important parts of life, that's when it crosses into detrimental territory, risking that addictive cycle. It's the difference between a temporary coping strategy and letting it become a persistent consequence of deeper, unaddressed issues.
And are there professionals who help people find this balance, especially if they feel like their viewing is problematic?
Oh, absolutely. Professionals like psychiatric social workers, therapists, counselors play a huge role. They can help develop media literacy skills, understanding how platforms work, how content affects us. They promote healthy habits, maybe help set screen time guidelines that work for an individual or family.
And offer direct help if needed.
Yes. For those really struggling, they provide evidence-based interventions. Strategies to change the behavior, develop healthier coping skills, and importantly, address any underlying mental health issues like depression or anxiety that might be driving the problematic viewing. It's about empowering people to build a healthier relationship with technology.
So we've really covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
Yeah.
We've seen how binge watching, this thing born out of amazing tech convenience and our love for stories, is truly complex. It's got this fascinating duality.
Yeah, it can be a powerful comfort, a stress reliever, even a social connector.
But it also carries that real potential to become a behavioral addiction, with some serious downsides for our health, our minds, our lives.
Understanding both sides, that nuance, feels incredibly important. It shows us that while the tech is designed to keep us hooked and maybe should be designed better to enrich us.
We also have a responsibility as individuals to engage thoughtfully.
Exactly. To be aware of the pull, the design, the convenience, and then make conscious choices about how we let it fit into our lives or not.
So we really want to encourage you, listening to this, to maybe take a moment and reflect on your own media habits. How are digital technologies serving your well-being right now?
Are they adding richness, connection, genuine relaxation, or are they maybe leading to more consumption than you intend, leaving you feeling tired, disconnected, or maybe even regretful?
It's a challenging thought. In a world that's increasingly designed to just keep us scrolling, clicking, watching,
Yeah.
how can we intentionally design our own digital lives?
How can we make them truly enriching, genuinely fulfilling, a source of well-being, not just endless consumption?
That's the challenge, maybe the opportunity we want to leave you with. How can you harness the good parts, the connection, the stories, the relaxation mindfully, using self-awareness to make your relationship with media something that truly supports your wellness and fulfillment?